All right, let's get our Facebook groups in here for it's officially time to get it going. Got the spinning wheels, 2 check marks. All right. Ceremonious coffee sip to give it a second to breathe. All right. Good morning. Good morning. It is Tuesday, the 17th. We made it halfway through the first month of the year. We're 124th through the year 2023 already. Gosh, time is flying by. And what a great weekend of football. I am Nick Kendell, joined by, as always, Scott Kennedy. Scott, happy Tuesday to you. How are you doing? How did you enjoy the snooze fest, I guess, that was last night's game, other than the missed kicks?
I mean, if it weren't for Tom Brady possibly being his last game, which I don't think it was, I mean, the missed kicks, I don't remember. I mean, I can't think of a professional kicker missing two in a game. I'm sure it's happened and I'm sure I've seen it, but it wasn't noteworthy. I know I've never seen three, and I sure hell have never seen four. And luckily for the Cowboys, they were in a position where they could keep running him out there. I mean, that's the only way you're going to get over it, man. Just get out there and do it and remember how to do it and get out there. You feel bad for the guy after a while, for God's sakes.
Yeah. Yep, he had the case of the yips, no doubt about that. But Dallas still wins. The defense looks good for them under Dan Quinn. Dak Prescott, 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. I mean, Dak played great. And, man, we got some amazing matchups next week. I am so stoked. I think this next week is my favorite week of football just because the variety of matchups that you have and the quality of
Yeah, you
opponents.
get rid of the teams that, for the most part, probably shouldn't be there. One team
Yeah.
may sneak in, and then surprise you. I mean, right now, the outlier, last year, the outlier to me was the Bengals. They just kept
Mhm.
winning. Right now,
Yep.
the outlier to me is the Jags. Don't sleep on the Jags.
No. I mean, I could close my eyes and literally see every single team that's left winning the Super Bowl. There's the pathway there. You got Dallas going to San Francisco, which will be incredible. I guess the Giants are the outlier for me. As soon as I said that, I'm like, okay, what's the other NFC team? Giants. I can't see the Giants winning the Super Bowl.
But
But Giants,
I mean, it's the Bills, Bengals, and it's the Jags, Chiefs, right? I mean, that's tough, but that's why you play
I'm
for the number
excited for
one
Jags
seed.
Chiefs. Yeah. Yep. Um, I'm excited for Bills, Bengals, Jags. I think the best matchup though is Dallas at San Francisco. That one is going to be must-watch TV, and those two teams hate each other. Probably about as good as any rivalry for non-divisional opponents as there is. So excited for that one, and excited to say hello to some people. Scott and I kind of reminisce and talk a little bit of the football that was this weekend. We got our guy Dave Glassman coming in with the heart saying Peyton, and Peyton has a nice ring to it. Yeah, it does. I'm not sure if Peyton 1 sticks around for Peyton 2 or what that dynamic looks like, but certainly fun. Maybe bring in Peyton Manning as well, and we'll have a party. I'm Jay Roper coming in saying, I'm crying on the inside. Oh, Jay, let it out. It's okay. Don't keep it in. It's Tuesday morning. You can cry if you want to. Albright is trying to make Quinn sound like he's a great head coach candidate on the same level as Peyton. We all know what that means. Albright's been pushing for Dan Quinn for a bit. He was doing it last cycle. Dan Quinn has a lot of merits as a head coaching candidate. He would make a lot of sense for a number of reasons. He's well liked. He's didn't have the best infrastructure in Atlanta the first time he was there, and his defense has played pretty well under him in Seattle and Dallas. I don't think it's academically honest to say that he is the same caliber of coaching candidate as a one Jim Harbaugh or a Sean Payton, but that doesn't mean that Quinn is not a qualified candidate. It's just he's a tier down from those guys, which seems obvious to me. I think it's definitely a spin to say that he is on the same level as other two, but still, he would make sense, and I would get it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the discussion's been which one would you rather have, and if you can't get those two, then what? And that's the discussion from us. We're
Mhm.
talking heads too. We watch a lot of football. I've got as much insight as on Dan Quinn as anybody not in Dallas right now. And he had his flaws again, but first time head coach. Maybe you can become the benefit of that experience. All of these guys get fired. What did you learn along the way? What would you have done differently? I'm sure those are questions he's being asked in the interview process, and how he answers those will be very important.
Yeah, 100%. And I still keep coming back to it. My biggest irritation with this draft cycle is that the Broncos, then it's a big mistake people make in business all the time. They go way too hard the other direction. Now, I know that they want an adult in the room, somebody who has some experience, but the only first time head coaching candidate they're interviewing is Dan Quinn. I think it's probably just as likely. I mean, it depends on the percentage of coaches but the best coach from this cycle is just as likely to be a first time head coach
Mhm.
as it is a second time head coach. Now, for the specifics with Denver's locker room, what's happened in the past, I get it if you want to put a little bit more benefit or I guess a bonus on experience, but I mean, would you be shocked at all if we're talking here a year from now, offensive or head coach of the year, Mike Kafka, head coach of the year, Shane Steichen, head coach of the year, could go on D'Amico Ryans. I wouldn't be shocked one bit. So I worry a little bit about that sort of tunnel vision in the head coaching cycle.
And
But
like you said, a lot of it has to do with the infrastructure put around you.
Yeah.
Denver, of the open positions, Denver's got a really good roster and money to be creative in free agency. So they're prime for a bounce back year.
Yep. Just getting an adult in the room will bounce them back. Wonder how big that bounce is, especially considering the toughness that is the Chiefs. The schedule looks pretty tough next year as well. But you never know. I mean, God, just give me a little bit of injury luck. Let's get on the other end of that. Talking about our luck turn around here, though, Miguel Santasteven coming in over on Facebook, getting us started with the support. The Stars today says, good morning, fellas. Do you think there will be a hire today or we'll go to the second round of interviews? I think a week from today is about when I would circle the Broncos hiring their next coach. So they're going to go through these interviews and we'll hear about it. Again, I think 24th, 25th, those are the dates I'd be looking out for.
I will be absolutely floored, jaw-dropping, forehead shining, shocked if there is the Denver Broncos hire a head coach today.
Yeah.
Well, let me rephrase. If a head coaching hire is announced today, you may get that silent commitment.
Yeah. 100%.
You may get that silent commitment, but hey, we have to do this we have to do this. I will be shocked if anything is announced today.
Yep. No doubt about that. We got Tyler Smith coming in. Good job last night, Tyler, for the Cowboys after Jason Peters went down, killing it. Really good offensive tackle, first rounder from Tulsa. Fun player. Tyler Smith. Good morning. Personally, I'm hoping for Sean Payton as long as it's just a first and some cash. Anymore and it won't be worth it. Secondly, maybe D'Amico Ryans or Iviro with a good offensive coordinator that has experience. That's another big thing as well with these head coaching. Thank you so much for the comment, Tyler. Another thing about these head coaching hires as well is it's not just the head coach that you're bringing in. It's who do they know? Who is their staff? The staff is a big one. And from where we sit, we can connect dots. I guess with Sean Payton, we do know there is some interest for Vic Fangio to come with him as well. But we can connect dots. But really, I mean, a head coach is only as good as the staff that he's able to hire around him and bring with him. And then if he has a success, replace those guys as well. But that's definitely a big part of it.
And if you were a head coach in the league for 15 years, you've had 200 coaches work for you.
Yeah.
Now, I'm exaggerating a little bit. I mean, he had some longtime coordinators, but you've got a bunch. You're connected within the Kevin Bacon spectrum of everybody in the NFL. Who can you bring in? If you can land a Sean Payton, he can end up being one of your best recruiters for coordinators too. Again, I would love to see Ejiro Evero stick around. If he's not hired as head coach, anybody coming in, I think would be wise to make sure that he's on the staff at least one more year.
If he wants to be here is the other thing. We'll see how that plays out, given he already turned down the interim head coaching tag because Nathaniel Hackett, maybe he's looking for another opportunity. Broncos turned it down, but one thing at a time. First, it's the head coach, and then we see what happens from there. Bradley Conger coming in saying, bracing for a letdown, not super high on Sean as a head coach, but I'll gladly take him over any of these other candidates. However, I don't think it's going to happen. If it's Sean Payton or the field, I would take the field as well, Bradley. He also says, when is the interview scheduled today for Sean Payton? I don't know the exact time, but I know it's in the morning. So it's happening. Oh, that's all I know is it's in the morning. Absolutely. So we'll hear that. And also, I believe we have Raheem Morris back in Denver tonight. So the Broncos brass is flying out to Los Angeles to interview with Sean Payton today and in the morning, and then flying back and interviewing with Raheem Morris back in Denver tonight, I believe is the schedule right now. But we'll see how it plays out. We'll get some news trickling in. Jeremy, Sean, morning boys, on to 1B. Absolutely. So yeah, as Jeremy is talking about the news that Jim Harbaugh announcing he's going back to Michigan today. He called the Broncos to let them know. Michigan, they didn't announce officially a new contract or anything, but I'm assuming that something is, they have, like you mentioned earlier, soft guarantee. Jim Harbaugh is off the market, going back to his alma mater, University of Michigan, and keeping the Big Ten East exceedingly interesting. I'm excited for that Big Ten East next year with Stroud leaving. I think Penn State's got a pretty damn good chance to win that as well.
Yeah, I said before I thought Sean Payton was 1A for me, depending on what it cost you to get him. If all things being equal, but they're not. So again, if it ends up being Sean Payton was on Colin Cowherd yesterday. I don't know if you watched his his segment on there. He went on for about 5.5 minutes. It was very candid. And, basically without saying it, said a late to first round pick, which I think was pretty low, honestly. It doesn't sound like they're willing to hold his feet to the fire. But Sean Payton, if he sat out 2 years, the Saints wouldn't get anything. So it's just like having a player that you're not necessarily using. But if we want a first round pick, we need to move on from this guy now, because as his contract shortens, he's got 2 years left on it. As his contract shortens, the compensation that you're allowed to get for him is less, and you're going to be coaching against him before too long anyway. So again, these are long-term type of discussions. Anybody coming in, why would he go here? They're a mess right now. Of course they're a mess right now. That's why they need a coach. And he said pretty much that at the time. Yeah, of course they are. That's why they have an opening. Yep. They are a mess. These are long-term types of deals. This is a 10-year type of deal. This is the last coaching job I want to take.
Yep.
Where do I want to be for the next 10 years of my life? And I'm not worried necessarily so much about who's on the roster right this second, but what is my pathway to success over my course of my stint with this next team.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. He has leverage in the sorts where obviously he would like to come back to coaching, but it sounds like he's pretty comfortable also in Fox doing right now, living in Los Angeles, doing the TV stuff. I mean, he's
good on TV, and they pay him a ton of money, and you don't have to work very hard.
And he was fine enough doing that, walking away, not coaching for a bit the first time. So I don't think they're not holding his feet to the fire. He has a lot of power and leverage as well. So see what happens with Sean Payton. Obviously, the big interview today. And if it's only that first round pick for me, send it off. What's it going to be? It might even be pick 31 the way San Francisco is playing right now. Kyle Shanahan and D'Amico Ryan's about as good as an offensive and defensive tandem in coaching in the NFL right now. Diamond Rattler saying, boom, let's go. Good to see you, Diamond. We got our guy Ethan also coming in, the closer, always coming in and supporting us as we're wrapping up the show, saying, good afternoon, gents in Broncos country. Good to see you, Ethan. Hope you're doing well. Kevin Gray saying, morning, Broncos country. Good to see you. We got our guy Daheen saying, good morning, Broncos country. Bama X is in the house. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. Blue 101 saying, how were the Texans allowed to interview Peyton yesterday when the NFL told the Broncos this wasn't permitted until today? Honestly, I had a similar question. I thought that the in-person interviews couldn't happen until today, the 17th. Maybe it wasn't an in-person interview. Maybe because Sean Payton isn't actively a part of the Saints. He is contractually, but not actively a part. Maybe it's different. But I'm not sure exactly. I guess what I would assume would be that it wasn't a in-person interview where the Texans flew to Los Angeles. But I didn't do much research on this. I just saw it was there and I was like, I thought it was tomorrow. Oh, well.
Yeah, I just assumed it was an interview, not necessarily in person. I don't know. Maybe it had to do with within a certain amount of time of the last game starting. I don't know. It is a good question, Lou.
Yeah. Falling Sloth in here out there in Cincinnati, working at the zoo. Hope you're doing well, Falling Sloth. No Falling Sloths on your watch. Good morning, Broncos country. Glad to be here this morning. Glad to have you. Dylan Von Arks, good morning, everyone. We got our guy Jake Gerard coming in. Bradley Chubb or Sean Payton getting done Penner in the next year wildcard weekend for us. Certainly possible. Not having that first round pick would be a little bit of a bummer. Dane Brugler had his second mock draft come out today, and not even having that first round pick's fine, but then second round you scroll down, it's like, oh, a lot of talent still there. I wish we had our second round pick. Gosh darn it! But it's probably for where the Broncos are picking specifically in this draft class. Probably rather get the coach if it's just that first round pick. Good to see. We got Chase Wellner coming in saying, not going to lie, I'm bummed we won't be landing Harbaugh. He was my number one as well, but is what it is. You move on, just kind of like when a draft pick that you really wanted gets picked before you. Oh well, we'll deal with the reality of it. Can't control it, so better to have that opinion, I think, mental health wise. Luke coming in saying, good morning, afternoon all. This is my first season watching the NFL. I picked the Broncos because of Colorado. It's the most beautiful state I've ever seen. Luke, it is a very beautiful state, no doubt about that. I'm originally from Iowa, and my family used to take summer vacation trips to Colorado up to Rocky Mountain National Park and Estes Park about every other year. It's definitely a beautiful state. A lot of stuff to do. It's a reason a lot of people are moving there from all over the world, and the local Coloradans are like getting a little bit irritated because the price of everything is exploding. I will say, though, I'm out here in the Pacific Northwest. I think I would take Washington, beautiful, over Colorado, beautiful. But it's just because how lush the forests are, and I have the coast as well. I mean, I got
fighting words right there, man. No, it's a get out and travel, folks. It's a beautiful country. You can
100%.
see everything. See the world if you can. Travel is awesome. Appreciate you, Luke. Michael coming in with some stars earlier. Thank you, Michael. He says good morning to Nick and Scott in Broncos country. And he also says Russell Wilson versus David Mills is Houston quarterback versus Denver Broncos quarterback. I would say the number 2 pick for the Houston Texans is going to go to a quarterback. So Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis versus Russell Wilson. How do you feel about coaching that? And then you've got you'd probably have to give up one of those. You'd probably have to give up your 12 to get Sean Payton. But let's say you're not giving up Sean Payton. Just talk about the Houston Texans as a rebuild project in general. They have 12 picks this year, 12, including 2 in the top 12, and another 2 first-rounders next year from the Deshaun Watson trade. The Houston Texans would be a very intriguing team to take on as a project if you, coming in with the expectations where they are. The problem is, if I've got 2 fairly equal things, again, if Houston Texans are my only offer, I'm jumping at it. But if I'm able to pick my teams, I might want to say you fired 2 coaches after 1 year. Is it 3? Have they done 3 in a row?
I think it's been 3. I think this is their 4th coach in 4 years.
But the one they didn't fire the last. They fired Lovey after 1 year. They fired the guy before that after 1 year. The guy
David
before
Culley.
that had to have been there more than 1 year.
I think you're right. Right.
Again, I would just say thank you, but no thank you. I'm going to go over here. They seem to have a little bit more patience and do things the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like there's a little apprehension about the Texans as an organization, which is understandable. G. Travis, good morning. Hopefully we'll get some good news this week. Makes me nervous the Broncos insiders trying to sell Quinn. Connections. Tim Durr, hey, Nick and Scott, what's good, Broncos country? We're just hanging out, having a good time. We got Diggs over on Twitch saying, hey, what's up, G? What's up to you, G? Good to see.
That's an I.
Either way, hello to you on Twitch. Hope you're doing well. Is this a Diggs Cowboys account here? I'm not sure because I see
almost like Kansas State. I don't know who that is.
It looks like a number 7. Oh, it's Trevon Diggs on there. So we got a Cowboys fan. Good win.
Wearing a 7 helmet. When did the Cowboys ever do that? They've always had stars.
Yeah, it is, but it's a Trevon Diggs specifically who wears number 7 for the Cowboys.
All right. Let's move on.
And moving on, but yeah, fun game last night for the Cowboys other than the missed kicks. We got our guy Adam coming in saying good morning. I picked every game right this week except for the Vikings. Got KC beating Niners in the bowl. Certainly possible. We'll see how it plays out. Scott and I picked them last time. I think we got the. Did we get any of the games?
No, we missed Vikings Giants, and we were both like the Giants could. I think I mentioned the Vikings have been playing like crap, but I'd go with the home team. So it was one of those. If you're weighing them, I wouldn't have put any weight in the Vikings Giants on that one. I think that was a good pick to go with the upset on that one. I didn't know until he was trending on my timeline again. I didn't know that Ed Donatel was the defensive coordinator with the Minnesota Vikings because he was trending as he should be fired before they leave the locker room.
Yeah, in
that game, and it just goes back to me saying that NFL coaching, it's the mafia, man. You're once you're a made man, you're in. You got a job for life. It's ridiculous. Oh, this guy's been a coordinator here and this and this. He's been fired everywhere he's been.
Yeah,
it's so incestual that we talk about the Rooney Rule and all this stuff, but my God, I was listening to Zach and Chad last night talk about, you do these interviews, you never know what you're going to find. You're forced to reach out of your comfort zone and interview this guy, and this guy. I'm like, guys, that's why we have the Rooney Rule. It's like, instead of just doing the easy thing and picking up the guys because they've been there already, it's meet somebody new, step out. Boy, my 13-year-old, go out there and talk to somebody. Get off your phone. I'm forcing you to do it. You might like what you find. That's the intention of the Rooney Rule.
Yeah.
Because the guys like Ed Donatel and the mafia version of NFL and college coaching.
Yeah. They were not very good defense this year. No doubt about that. The oldest secondary in football by like a lot. It was crazy. We got our guy, Rob Bucksbaum, coming in saying good morning. Nick and Deacon Scott. Thoughts are that we are making a hire tomorrow. given that we have no interviews tomorrow. I think it's just a recovery day to reassess everything, but we'll see. I think they're going to carry out all the interviews. It is interesting that we're going to have D'Amico Ryans and Dan Quinn playing in the same game this upcoming week, and we have both of those interviews coming up. Clyde coming in, saying good morning. Good to see you, Clyde. He says also, who do you think will be the head coach? Right now, my gut is telling me it's going to be Dan Quinn. I think maybe that's just me. Harbaugh was my favorite. Maybe that's just me wallowing a little bit, but I think I'm preparing for it to be Dan Quinn, which is fine. I make a lot of jokes on Twitter because I'm on Twitter to have fun and just, rile things up sometimes. I use a lot of hyperbole, which is missed on the internet a lot. I get that. But Dan Quinn would be fine. Don't tell me that it's a big swing. I think, as you said last week, it's one that's been stuck in my head. Don't piss on me and tell me it's rain.
I didn't say that one, but I've heard that a bunch. That's an old saying, and I'm an old dude. So
that's one where I think of, Dan Quinn's. We always wanted him. He was one of our top 3, the big swings. He's fine, but let's not do that. So we'll see, but I think it's going to be Quinn.
I think it might be Payton.
Really?
I do. I think it might be Payton. Surprised. If the draft pick comes down to just, your first and then maybe a later round or something like that and some cash, that's not a high price to pay. I was going through it yesterday, and again, I've gotten there. We're focused so much on what draft picks could be that we don't focus enough on what they usually are, which is most of the time they're okay.
Especially that late.
And even if you hit on one, just absolutely hit on one, your team would have been better off the last 2 years with Sean Payton than Pat Surtain. Without a doubt. Don't give me that shrug. Your team would not be as bad a position as they are right now if you had Sean Payton as your head coach. No way.
The immediate team, I agree with you. I don't know about the long-term perspective.
I got 10 years of Sean Payton. I got 10 years of Pat Surtain. Give me the coach, man. I got time to find another quarterback and build around and do all those kind of things. And you're still not even talking about that pick. And that's a hindsight pick.
Yeah.
How many people were, what was the split on why are they drafting Pat Surtain to begin with? Yeah. Your team, what was it last year? Was it 7 and 10? 12 wins in 2 years? You have more than 12 wins with Sean Payton as your head coach last 100%. Year starting. Abso-freaking-lutely. And you're moving in the right direction. And you're not maybe making big swing and trade. Forget the Russell Wilson trade. I mean, let's say you do that anyway. Your team is better off the last 2 years with Sean Payton than Pat Surtain. No doubt in my mind.
You probably do have a better record. That's a tough one for me because I'm such a
tough
Jimmy's and Joe's guy.
It's not. For one player?
Yeah. For a non-quarterback too. Obviously.
For a corner?
For a corner. Yeah.
Nope.
I'll have to stew on that one a little bit. You seem pretty emphatic. I'll have to think about that. Juan coming in. Good morning.
Just watch this just ridiculousness for the last 2 years. How can Broncos country understate the importance of a head coach? I think it's because they just think, well, he wouldn't be that much better than this guy over here. You say that and you keep hiring guys that are failing miserably.
Yeah.
You've got a proven commodity. Sean Payton is an excellent head coach. There's no hope involved here.
Yeah.
He is.
We're going to go down a rabbit hole now. I think because of the fact that it's not draft slotted, it's probably, and the fact that the Broncos have the wealth now, I would feel better about competing against everybody in an open market than I would be able to find a Patrick Surtain caliber player in the long-term perspective. But it's an interesting conversation. I agree with you 100% that this team would be in a better spot in the immediacy if they had Sean Payton rather than Pat Surtain in that draft pick. That's tough because it's like evaluating, totally different areas of the field. I have a hard enough time comparing draft picks or draft positions.
It is, but I'm just saying that you cannot have watched. And I'm just 2 years into this, y'all.
Yeah,
I'm not Vance Joseph. I'm not. I'm not. Who else? It's been the last 6, 7 years. What are we in year 7 now? Of incompetency at coaching. To watch Broncos country understate the importance of the head coach to not want to give up a first-round draft pick? You're kidding me. Come on.
Okay, so just down this pathway real quick. You've been with me about not giving up a 2024 first round pick because of the potential pivot off of the quarterback.
I
What is
consider
the
it
difference
also
here?
as in addition to.
Okay, because
Okay, I think of it. It's like this pick's gone.
yeah,
This pick and next year. If it's one first round pick, send it.
I'd be fine with one and a 3. Even like you can give them
Yeah.
your third round pick this year, that's fine. I'm not giving up that 2024 first round pick because if that ends up being a top 3 pick, oh my god,
Yeah,
especially in
I
next
don't
year's
think you have
class.
to. That's
Yeah,
the other
I
reason. I
agree.
don't think you
Yeah,
have to.
I agree.
Um,
I just was curious because that was we were
in the
talking
negotiations, I
draft
don't think
picks.
you have to. If you were to say one first round pick, when you start giving up multiples,
Hmm.
you still have to have people to coach. That's the I'm looking at the PFF did a trade scenario for Lamar Jackson. They traded him with the Texans, Lamar Jackson to the Texans. And they gave up 1, 12, the 2 and 12, the 2 picks they had this year, and then a 1 next year. And that turned out to be Bryce Young, Quentin Johnson, and then probably a top 5 pick next year for Lamar Jackson. I'm like, at what point are you going to be able to put anybody around him?
Hmm.
So, you can't decimate your team to the point where there's nobody else there. But
Yeah.
one first round pick, even if it's next year's, okay. If I keep this year's, okay.
Certainly. It's an interesting exercise, no doubt. Juan coming in. Good morning, gentlemen. Do you believe George Payton? We got to start with the audio format. It doesn't translate as well. So George Payton is now the number 1 choice. Oh, he spelled Sean Payton, but you should have a Y in there. Or do you believe Quinn has a chance as well? I think Sean Payton, and Dan Quinn both have chances. Broncos are going to try to get, my assumption would be they try to get Sean Payton first. I feel like they'd be comfortable with Dan Quinn. I also feel like hiring Dan Quinn very much is a good tactic for the ownership because if it goes down with a ship with Dan Quinn, then you can fire everybody. Because Dan Quinn, this has always been George Payton's guy. We brought George Payton in the process, and George Payton wanted to hire Dan Quinn the first time and got talked into Hackett. Now we get him in, and Quinn fails. Well, this Payton guy sucks. The George Payton, we're going to move on from him, his guy Quinn, his quarterback Russell Wilson. Obviously, that's a little bit of a tinfoil hat, but it definitely puts a lot of the blame off of the ownership group if you bring in George Payton's guy and Dan Quinn if they fail to bring in Sean Payton.
Yeah, but again, when you're Greg Penner up there talking about this is my hire, kind of like the draft pick, I don't want to hear that Dwayne Stukes made a draft pick. I don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. Your special teams coordinator does not get to pick players. It's if that's happening, then what do I need you for?
Yeah.
The general manager is in charge. And if Greg Penner is standing up and saying, I'm in charge of this. Now, that said, we've said all along, we had a question it was a multi-layered question, Nick, is George Payton, is his fate tied to this next coach? Yes, in several different ways.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the new coach comes in and Payton's out. If Payton's making this hire, he won't get a third. He will not get a third.
Yep.
So if this next coach is unsuccessful, they're all gone. But yes, I mean, Payton's not safe yet as far as if he's going to be general manager of this team in 2020 for the 2023 season.
Yep. 100%. We got Sunny Days coming in with the hearts and the coffee and the thumbs up. Good to see you, Sunny Days. Hope you're doing well. Zach saying we need a second round pick from this draft. What are options? Most likely possibilities of getting one. Most likely chance to get a second round pick is you trade out of that first. But if you don't have that first, then I don't know. You're probably not. Do the Broncos have very many tradable assets right now? Contractually, I guess you might be able to flip Garrett Bowles or Justin Simmons, but that screams rebuild, and I don't think the rest of the team says that right now. So the only real chance I see of getting a second, I guess you could package both your third round picks together to move up into the middle of the second, but I'd rather have the 2 3s personally. So
when I can go guard center and really help the depth on my interior line, I'd rather have 2 3s also. I don't think those are, I agree with you, Nick. And what were you were just saying something about the picks and I forgot. It'll come back to me.
Got our guy Kenneth Booker. If Baron Browning stays healthy, what's his floor and ceiling next year? Floor is a solid rotational speed rusher who can drop into coverage from time to time. You can do a lot of different fake blitz kind of looks with him. Is he coming? Is he going? Wraparounds, et cetera, et cetera. I think he's got a chance to be a solid number 2 as well. I don't think he's a number 1 caliber pass rusher. I don't see the power in his game, but I think he's a really solid rotational pass rusher. You probably do need to solidify the room. I don't know if I can go into next season, depending on Browning and Gregory playing more than 60% snaps available to them each next season, given their injury history and just how much of a rotational position edge is anyway. But he's a solid player and much more value at the edge spot, especially now that the Broncos have so many question marks along their defensive front next season.
Yeah, if he's good at edge, it's better than being good at inside linebacker. You know that one for sure. But again, Kenny, the big one here is if these guys, and it's not even Browning. Golly, we talked about that. We try not to say it every time. It's like, well, what happens here? Well, assuming nobody gets hurt, assuming everybody's healthy, you can't assume that right now. So we have to talk about depth. And Jonathan Cooper hasn't stayed healthy. But when he's in there, I think he's a good fourth guy. He's a good depth player. So if you go healthy Gregory, healthy Browning, Cooper, and then you can bring somebody in. Jacob Martin was okay when he was there. He could be a re-sign. He'll be a cut and re-sign. His salary coming in is too high for what he will be. So you let him test the market. Good depth player, but you're going to need another draft pick / competent free agent to come in at edge too. Floor and ceiling, I don't know. I don't know the league well enough to give comps on that, but he could be a 10 sack guy for sure.
Yeah, the player that comes to mind for me is Uchenna Nwosu, who was played for the number of years of the Chargers, had a really good season for the Seahawks last year. He's more of a finesse rusher, not always the best at setting the edge, speed guy that can do a lot of versatile stuff, dropping into coverage, rushing off the edge, playing at the second level from time to time, lining up over the A-gap, et cetera, et cetera. The very good player. I don't think that's who the most ideal are the ceiling for him. He could probably even he's a great athlete, but I don't know if he's a ways off yet. Hollywood Blue coming in saying, I knew Elway did this because who the hell swayed George to choose Hackett?
It must have been the margaritas. I'm telling you, they were doing tequila shots and whatever restaurant that was, and all of a sudden you got a deal coming out of there. Hollywood Blue, you said something about following me on Twitter last night. Right at that second, I got a follow from someone else that I thought was you. I'm like, oh, there she is. It wasn't. I was getting fished. I was like, oh, sorry, you're not who I thought you were. Please leave me alone.
Look out. Kathy coming in. Hi, guys. I'm late again. What are we going to do now that Harbaugh's off the table? It sounds like they're going to carry out their interview process. Sean Payton today, Raheem Morris today, Dan Quinn later this week. I think Raheem Morris also later this week. We'll see how it plays out. Everything's on it. Everything's possible. Hope you're doing well after your surgery, Kathy, as well. Thinking about you and being held up there in Germany. Sheldon Helms, why is there no interest in Steve Wilkes in the league? I don't know. I thought he did pretty good. Obviously, that team with Arizona was absolutely horrible. But when you look at the data from the quarterback that season that they had that rookie year, it's not all his fault. So I'm not sure. I think that's an excellent question.
Who's the Wilkes at Carolina?
That's Wilkes.
Okay, yeah. Just making sure before I said it. As soon as it was said and you said Arizona.
Well, he was with Arizona for 1 year, and then he
got separated for me. I'm like, okay, wait, we're talking about the same person, right? I think he stays in Carolina. I think that's one of the reasons why you could put out the interview. You could do interviews with him. If I'm him, I'm going out and doing some more interviews. But I think there's a pretty solid belief around the league. This is just, again, seat of the pants analytics. I think he's going to get the job full time. He was there longer. He's got a better resume than the guy who was with the Raiders last year. What was that guy? The one that sounds like an ice cream. Mm-hmm. That was just short. That was just a few games, and he didn't have the same resume to back it up. So I think he's going to stick with the Panthers, and I think the Panthers should stick with him personally.
Sounds like they're looking for a young offensive coach, but Wilkes will have a defensive coordinator spot in the league, no doubt.
They tried that with that. Who's it? Brady? Who's the
Joe Brady?
The flash in the pan who had Joe Burrow at LSU, and all of a sudden he's the next Sean McVay.
Joe Brady. Yep. Yeah. He was a pass game coordinator for a year in the Saints, and then went to the LSU, and now he's been around the league a little bit.
But he was getting head coaching jobs. 1 year of interviews.
Yep.
Coming. I'm like, guys, come on now. Let's make them earn it just a little bit here, please.
I'm a Ben Johnson truther. I think Ben Johnson's a great candidate. I'd be okay with him if I was them. But Definitely. There's multiple ways to go. Steve Wilkes deserves a shot. Let Loose saying, "What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Told everyone Jags would come all the way back to beat the Chargers. I need the receipts from the time of that when that came out, because I'll tell you, I turned it off at 27-0 and went home to walk the dog, and then I was like, oh my gosh, they're chipping their way back. Chargers going to Charger. But Let Loose also says, still got Sean Payton as my head coach and standing on it. Well, Let Loose, we'll see. Today's a big day for you then, if that's the case. We got Quentin Caldwell. Good morning. I have a feeling this would happen with Jim. Got to say Harbaugh, because we still got Jim Caldwell on the kicker, saying, even though I was excited about getting him, never had high expectations. I think that's where I'm at as well with Dan Quinn. I don't know if you ever saw the Aladdin, back in the day. He's like, yeah, Aladdin, go. Like the genie's cheering for him. And then Jafar like points at him and he's like, pulls out this sarcastic, like small flag. Jafar, he's our guy. That's where I'm at with Dan Quinn right now. I'd be emphatically fine with him there. Antonio Jones saying Tebow Mania was crazy. Yes, it was. Those were crazy times.
It was. I actually did a video about when FS1 was coming out for the first time. I put together a sizzle reel of taking on ESPN and how it was mind control, and they only want you to think what this isn't real. And I was just going to have, and that was right in the height of Tebow. It was like Tebow. That's all you heard about. LeBron, Tebow. It sold though. Again, when you got a problem with the media, we're to blame. If we wouldn't click on it, if we wouldn't watch it, they would change the tune. They would do something else. I get that question all the time. Why are you writing about Julio Jones? He left Atlanta. Because you keep reading it. Once you stop, I'll stop.
You guys dictate what the conversation is, unless Scott and I go down a rabbit hole, because then we're holding you guys hostage. MPAC-T18 says, I don't think it can overstate what an abysmal failure Hackett was. I'm not sure he was truly qualified to be an offensive coordinator. If they had replaced him earlier, we may have made a wild card. Who knows? Different ways the season could have gone. Could have hired Dan Quinn. We wouldn't be in this situation right now. He could have interviewed Doug Peterson, and maybe then you really are in the interview cycle right now. I can't believe they didn't hire Doug Peterson or interview.
That was the John Fox hire. Doug Peterson's, I think he's 52, 53. He looks older than that. He's still a young guy. I mean, he's got plenty of years left, and he is a good coach. He is a really good coach. MPAC, I have a problem with offensive coordinators that don't call plays for a Hall of Fame quarterback. What exactly do you do here? That bothers me.
Yep. And that's one reason I really like Mike Kafka as an option here, because he was with Kansas City first off, Northwestern quarterback for a number of years. Smart kid. Then went to Kansas City, pass game coordinator, I believe, last year, quarterback coach, and now is calling plays for the Giants under Brian Daboll. Even though Brian Daboll is the offensive-minded head coach, he's not the play caller. It's Mike Kafka. So I would have rather have seen Hackett, go somewhere where he was full-time play caller and then, call him up. But that's obviously with hindsight. And I do think we can say at this point the Broncos brought in Hackett as giving themselves a chance to go get Aaron Rodgers. I think that was
it from the beginning.
Part of the plan.
We said, oh, well, they've squashed that report. Who has? The Broncos? Yeah, miss me on that one. I don't care what the Broncos say about that. I don't care. It's all PR at that point. You will never convince me that that Aaron Rodgers wasn't the main target. Never.
Yeah, I agree with you. Ernie May is saying, go Broncos country, only holding men. Not sure who's holding who, but Ernie, you're holding my attention, whatever the heck that means. Appreciate you coming in. Good morning to you. And if you guys are supporting us like Ernie does, always coming in, you're supporting the Broncos, supporting a Mile High Huddle, click a thumbs up. We got about 300 people here, according to my eyeballs. I think that's just Facebook, but a disproportionately low amount of likes, reacts, et cetera, et cetera. So please hit that up. It's free to do. It takes 1 second, and we would greatly appreciate that. And hit us up in the comments as well, like our guy Dylan saying, bottom line, Peyton elevates the play of the quarterback. You get the right guy in there, and the offense is soaring. Definitely will improve, no doubt about that. One thing I also like about Sean Payton is that he's had pretty solid offensive lines where he's gone as well. Now, it hasn't been the same style of offensive line as, or this play style, not offensive line, but play style as Jim Harbaugh with the smash mouth. But he's put a priority on that, and he's done a good job building an offensive line around his team. I also think he's one of the best coordinators of the quick pass game I've in the NFL. If you need 3 yards on third down, he will do it better than anybody as far as getting a guy open. Maybe Kyle Shanahan's the exception, but he's pretty incredible at that.
We talk about this, Drew Brees, and again, being an NFC South and watching the dregs of the NFL for years, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Atlanta Falcons, and New Orleans Saints. Carolina Panthers haven't suffered as long as those three franchises. What Peyton did over that time period is nothing short of incredible. They're like, oh, you went to the playoffs 8 times in 15 seasons. They'd only been to the playoffs 5 times in 40 years. I mean, like, we're not all the Broncos, y'all. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work that way. But what impressed me, you can talk about Drew Brees, but, I looked this up and I wrote it down this time, so I don't have to keep looking it up. With Jameis Winston, with Teddy Bridgewater, with Taysom Hill, he had a 17-5 record with those guys as starters. It's not all just Drew Brees, y'all. He's a hell of a football coach.
100%. And we got our guy, Rob, coming in. And Scott, let me know if my internet all of a sudden poops out. I got the one signal bar thing.
You're pixelating a little bit, but you sound okay.
Okay, well, that's rather sound good than look good. Saying you guys need more pop culture references. They are the best. Always Sunny, Office, Aladdin, Top Gun. Football commentary is good too. I don't know if I can get Scott on the Always Sunny train.
I haven't watched it. For me, it'd be like referencing MASH. I thought about that. It's like, you give me heck about Pokemon. It's like, I don't have anything against Pokemon. I just don't know anything about it. It'd be like if I started saying, oh, I remember that time when Hawkeye and BJ were getting after Frank. You'd be like, what?
I saw some MASH back in my day. I always
or Cheers. Norm, you probably know. So I watched every Cheers episode, but for me, it's like, you wouldn't get it. I don't have anything against Pokemon, but
Pokemon was my childhood. I'm not about that life anymore. I know some people are way about that. I just like tease Scott. Savage Boy Kev coming in saying, does Jim Harbaugh announcing he's going to stay at Michigan mean that Sean Payton is close to a deal for Denver? We saw Coward show hints. I don't know. I think it's more possible now than it was when Jim Harbaugh was a possible candidate. So sure, I don't think that the Broncos still have to woo him. It's a weird situation. Obviously, both these people are trying to attract the other because Peyton's going to try to get money as well. But for the Broncos, it's about recruiting Peyton to Denver, where the other candidates about those candidates showing themselves to be brought in by Denver, in my opinion, just given the skins on the wall and the credit, what's the word I'm looking, resume of Sean Payton.
Nobody seems too held back by what the Saints might ask. That's important. Mm-hmm. All the teams that was showing interest seem to have a working understanding that they can meet the asking price. That's real important. Close to a done deal. I'm not positive Peyton's coming to Denver. Is he getting closer to making a decision on a 10 days? Again, I think you said end of next week. 10 days, I think we should probably hear something. Do I think Denver is the favorite? Probably. I think so. I think they would probably be the favorite. But again, putting you at the favorite means you might have a 33% chance where the next favorite is 25. That's still a 1 in 3. Watching some of the other coaching searches, the Colts, they look like their number one candidate is D'Amico Ryans, and they just had an interview with Raheem Morris. So they seem to be going down one step below, what we would consider the tier 1 retread candidates. So we'll see. Close to a done deal. He might be the. Let me ask you this, Nick. Is Peyton like that big time quarterback that once he picks a spot, the others start falling into place? Is he the number one recruit out there?
I think the trade makes it a little bit more complicated. That could be a pitfall as far as because then you have the negotiation on that end, which could add, may slow things down. I also think because some other teams are not even in the ballpark for Sean Payton, that potentially those teams, you could see them make moves before that domino falls. But I think for a big part, that's going to be a market setter. I think it's also going to be a big one for any of the coaches that are looking for big contracts coming up here. I think they're going to say, okay, what's Sean Payton getting? Okay, now I know what I'm getting as well. I also think the other thing here with this is because the Broncos' money and Sean Payton, you could see a holdup because a lot of coaches are probably going to want to go coach under Sean Payton, talking about the assistants, the position coaches, et cetera, and get paid what the Broncos are going to pay those guys. So it definitely could be a first domino to fall kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some teams, at least one or two, make a move before Denver announces, but he's definitely the big domino, and it's going to have ripples down through the entire NFL. I mean, heck, could have huge ripples for the Broncos. It could be that, when that happens, George Payton is on his way out because they want to bring in somebody that's Sean Payton approved. Maybe they keep George until the end of the draft, but I mean, who knows? So it'll be interesting.
And maybe it's just been quiet, or I just haven't seen it as much. But D'Amico Ryans and the Texans, if D'Amico Ryans is going to get a head coaching job, wouldn't it make sense for him to be back in Houston? Where he was a 2-time Pro Bowler. We'll see.
Definitely an interesting one, no doubt about that. I'm a big D'Amico Ryans fan. I think he's a very, very good coordinator, and I'd be excited to have him in Denver, even though he's a first-time head coach. I think he just screams Mike Vrabel type. Like, he's going to squeeze every bit of talent, and that team's going to play smart. They're going to play tough. They're going to play fast. They're going to have good technique. I mean, they play. Gotta love their defense. People freak out about
Leroy saying, did he turn down the interview with the Texans? Again, after you fire a couple of guys after 1-1 seasons and you've got multiple options, I hope that's the case. I do.
Yeah, the other thing with him is that they hired and fired first-time African-American head coaches, gave them one and dones as essentially sacrificial lambs. Didn't even give them the chance. I know that Lovie Smith was peeved about everything that went down there. So he should be. He's right to be. So how they were playing too with the lack of talent. I mean, yeah, I would turn them down as well. Jess coming in saying Boise and the Chiefs defense looks like I think they'll have a huge letdown versus the Jags. I think the Jags have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. They're very young and they play tough. I like a lot of their offensive line talent as well. My guy Brandon Scherf, highest paid guard in football, I believe right now, from University of Iowa, killing it out there this week against the Chargers, ragdolling some guys. I think the Jags game, they're going to be feisty. They got nothing to lose. They got to be playing with sky high with confidence right now. And we saw this Broncos team almost go into Arrowhead and beat Kansas City. Now, Andy Reid, Patrick Holmes, extra week to prepare. I'm not going to be betting on the Jags, but would I be shocked if I'm sitting here a week from now and we're talking about shock of the week, Jags going into Arrowhead and punching the Chiefs in the mouth? I don't think I'd be shocked.
And you're going to get the Chiefs' best. When we're talking about regular season is one thing, but now you're going to get full focus of the Chiefs. No distractions, no anything else. This is win or go home. I just don't think the Jags are there yet. They're just not there yet. Chiefs. I think the Chiefs win this one by 10. What's the line on it? The line should be about 10.
I have not seen it yet.
I'll look it up real quick, but my guess is I would put it at 10. And let's see, we got Jaguars, Chiefs 8.5. So again, yeah, that sounds about right. Tim Durr coming in. I like this question. He says, Peyton and the Panthers doesn't make sense to me. The Saints and Panthers are division rivals. You can get a better price from the Panthers. And I think he was hinting at that a little bit. Sometimes the compensation will change depending on the team. That's his way of saying on that Colin Cowherd interview yesterday, it'll cost you more in division. I think that's the case. But again, the divisional rivalry stuff, I think, is a little overblown. You play them twice of 17 games. We'll see. I think it could happen. I just think that, Carolina is definitely a closer culture fit, but dude, he's been out in LA. LA and New Orleans are pretty far apart when we're talking about, the culture differences there. So I think he's pretty adaptable.
I agree. And follow the money, follow the organization, follow the power. We'll see what happens. We'll get some tidbits hopefully coming out today. Nick Kaiser, $4.99 super, probably going to be one of our last ones here as we start to wrap up the show, saying I'm a little bit behind, but what about Jadeveon Clowney and free agency? There was a huge slew of garbage and hurt feelings coming out of Cleveland here with Jadeveon Clowney here this last 2 weeks, where Jadeveon Clowney was saying he was injured but going out and still playing third downs, issues with his run defense, and even to the point where Myles Garrett, probably the leader on that Cleveland team, came out and talked about Jadeveon Clowney saying, we want volunteers, not hostages, as far as the impact being on the field, being at practice, et cetera, et cetera. So I think Clowney is on his way out. I think he's going to be labeled somebody who maybe if there's an injury that happens in the preseason, regular season, somebody will bring him in just because he is still talented. But if you're not, if we can't trust you to go out there and set the edge on first and second down, I don't know if we want you, especially for where he's at in his career right now.
And he got into a beef with local media too, saying that he was misquoted and that's not what he said. And, they responded back because it was basically him saying, I have to do the dirty work so they can get more favorable matchups for Myles Garrett. Well, too bad. You're a professional. You're getting paid. That's the job. And then he took some issue with that the backlash that he got from that and went after the reporter. And the reporter in the paper basically said, "This dude's lying through his teeth." Again, Nick said it. Is this a guy you want in the locker room right now? Maybe, but I might look in other directions first.
Yeah, 100%. We got some trash talking about my city here, saying Seattle's a trash city, really bad. It's sad. You go to any big city, you're gonna find some stuff, especially on the coasts where you have more temperate weather. I love Seattle. I love the city, but I live in a nice area, and I'm also a 6 foot plus male who is not afraid to walk around anywhere. So I know that I have privilege in that as well. But
yeah, I've said that before, walking around sometimes with headphones. Like, what is male privilege? Male privilege is walking down the street with headphones on and not really worrying about it. That's
at night,
that's different. That's that I've told you before. I've been in some of the worst areas in this country has to offer. And the only time I've ever been nervous is at dusk in Seattle when they're, you got I know how to deal with criminals.
I know what they
they're
want.
pretty simple, but guys that are freaked out burnouts that are barking at the moon and yelling at the pavement, I don't know how to rationalize with those folks. And they got nothing to lose, man. So they make me a little more nervous. The decriminalization of criminals and setting up the homeless camps in Seattle has been a problem, but it's a different conversation.
As far as barking at the moon and yelling at the pavement, that was me after Denver choked against Seattle week 1. You probably saw me disgruntled walking around downtown Seattle after getting embarrassed with that one. But it's closing out the show here. We got Ethan, DWI guys, 50 pounds coming in saying, great show, Jensen Broncos country. Pay Sean Payton. Let's get the head coach right this time. Then we can move on to free agency and draft. And Broncos have their full assortment of draft picks for 2024. They might have a day 3 pick that's moved around here or there. But absolutely. We'll see what happens here. A big interview today. And we'll be here again tonight. It'll be Carl and I think we're going to talk a little bit of free agents, obviously talk the draft stuff as well. And maybe get into that Dane Brugler mock draft also. But any final thoughts, Scott? It's about 7:30 here and it's trash day. I gotta get some chores done before I get on into work. But anything before we wrap it up?
No, thank you, Ethan. Appreciate you coming in that one. I'll come back and let you close us out. But Michael also come in with some stars. Lawrence, I guess we can wrap it up with a question from Lawrence. It was really long. Let me see if I can find it again. Lawrence, he had it's way up here. Say something, Nick, so they don't have to listen to me scroll.
Memories. No, okay. So I'm looking for Lawrence as well. But yeah, big interviews this week and really excited to see what the Broncos do. Right now, again, my gut feeling says it's going to be Quinn. I don't know if I'm in the bartering stage or the acceptance stage of grief. He's fine. He's fine. I just, again, telling me that he is the same caliber as those other two, I think is BS, especially when you had a chance to hire him last cycle and you went with Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, it's just the optics look terrible to me, but he's fine. And the defensive players at Dallas and Atlanta and Seattle have loved him. We can get into a little bit more in the Dan Quinn conversation later on. I just don't know if he is.
And he's actually gotten players to come in as free agents because they had him at Florida or have played with him before. The players they really do love him. Build the right infrastructure around him. That you can say that about a lot of guys.
Yeah.
But and he's a good head coaching candidate. Is he on the same caliber as Sean Payton? Not for me. Would I possibly rather take a swing at a very similar younger first time guy who has very similar traits in D'Amico Ryans? Yeah, I might. But Lawrence coming in this paragraph basically saying that appreciate the stars, Lawrence. He basically says the problem is these players have gotten used to a culture of losing and had different coaches in this, need to wipe out the whole thing and start over like Coach Prime is doing. Unfortunately, you can't do that because salary cap restraints, whereas college guys are on 1-year deals. They're on 1-year contracts at all times. And you've got multi-year contracts with salary cap restraints and stuff. So you can't just do that and nuke the whole thing. Can you go through a rebuild? Yeah. And if you move on from Russell Wilson next year and Cortland Sutton, if you're going to hit the reset button, it's going to be after the 2023 season. That's where a lot of the contracts become move onable from.
That's a
because
technical
after
term.
next year, George Payton did a good job of setting this up. Hey, if it doesn't work, we can push the reset button in 2023. Sutton, Patrick, Russell Wilson, there's 40% of your salary cap right there that can happen. So appreciate you, Lawrence.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lawrence. Thanks to everybody coming in today. Again, we got about 300 people in here. Please click the thumbs up on the way out. It doesn't cost you a thing. It takes 2 seconds, and it helps us a heck of a lot. And also, while you're on the internet machines, make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at BFB_pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. If you're on Facebook, after clicking that like, make sure you're joining us on Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says underneath, please, if you're watching us anyway, YouTube's probably the most popular way to watch us. If you are joining us via YouTube, subscribe to Mile High Huddle, like the show, like the page, and share it on your social media platforms. I know Scott's been cutting up and putting some stuff on TikTok. I keep getting Instagram notifications that things are getting put up on there. I have a reel on Instagram right now that is just absolutely blowing up in India. I have like 1,000 likes on this reel. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, I guess thank you. And please subscribe, like, and share. And I will see you guys again tonight. It is Tuesday night. Feels like a Monday night. Love those days like that. We're already 2/5 through the week, or through the mornings, I guess. But I'll be back tonight on Building the Broncos with Carl. And Scott and I will see you guys again tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Mountain Time for our draft show. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be talking about yet, but
I'm not sure. It's draft football. Might not just be draft. We'll talk about some of the top free agents. We'll take a look a little bit into some of the playoff matchups and guys that are now free agents. Tom Brady coming up. So we'll hit on a bunch of things. So come see us over on my channel, which is just YouTube, Scott Kennedy.
Yeah. Hang out with us. We'll have a good time. We'll be there again tomorrow. You guys have a good one. Enjoy your Tuesday. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.